We have big hearts and we love deeply and we feel deeply. And unfortunately that gets masked with, you know, what you tend to see and what mainstream media kind of puts out as, you know, us acting out or being womanizers or being sort of all of the negative aspects of what people know to be men. And so what I wanted to do was something different. And so as I was embarking on that journey, I was realizing, man, like I'm hurt.
Yeah.
I'm deeply like sad right now. And I just didn't have the language in that moment to articulate that.
Right.
So it was like, one, it was feeling these feelings and not knowing how to express them, and needing the help to do that was what helped me then say, all right, I need to go to therapy, right? Like I need help to develop the language to then say to whoever it was, my friends or the people that were supporting me and loving me at the time, to express to them what it was that I was experiencing so that they can then help me. You know, you think that love is about just pouring, right? Just giving yourself. Because that's what we're taught to do as men, right? It's like you have to be a protector. You have to be a provider. You have to give. And we're not taught to receive.
Right.
And I think that value exchange in that relationship was incongruent. I wasn't receiving the nurturing and the type of love and the space to just be me, the fullest expression of who I was, right? Like to be emotive, to be sad sometimes, right? To be imperfect. I wasn't afforded that opportunity in that relationship. And so when I look back at that, I was like, man, that made me really sad.
Yeah.
And it made me feel incomplete. So I was like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to feel like this anymore. So I want to take some time back and say, what do I need to do to give that to myself first and foremost before I look for it in another person? Therapy was really helpful because it helped me identify where the holes were, right? And so where the gaps were. And I think that's kind of like, you know, and that goes back to like childhood trauma, like ways that you were abandoned, right? Like a lot of us as men are giving because we're afraid to be left alone, right? And we're afraid of being lonely, which we can get into. I mean, there's the difference between being alone and being lonely, right?
Yeah.
But we're afraid of it.
Yeah.
And so I think we overcompensate with either, you know, our financial abilities, right? Our ability to produce, our ability to dress a certain way, our ability to like command a room and like show up, our persona and our ego look in a certain way. So I think we tend to overcompensate because of that, because we're giving from this place of emptiness and from a place where we kind of wanted something for ourselves in that moment. So I think it's just learning that. It's just like taking the time to really learn myself, learn what was it that I needed to kind of heal in those moments, and identify those pockets and actively go in there and really like excavate and really do that work. Men aren't afraid of connection. We're not afraid of expressing our emotions. What we're afraid of is the potential isolation that comes when we do express that. Right?
The rejection.
The rejection, right? The abandonment. And I think that's what I had to really unpack and get over. It's like, what's on the other side of this, right? Like if I'm with someone and I express that I'm sad or if they did something that made me feel a certain way, and I decide to, in a respectful way, express that, then there's nothing wrong with me doing that. If they decide to like abandon me and leave, then that's on them. But you have to be full enough and confident and self-secure enough in yourself to say that this is my truth, right? As long as you're not expecting them to solve it for you, right? Like, and I think that's what a healthy relationship should do, is to be able to come in and say, okay, what is the thing on the table? And what's yours, right? Like as a man that you have to deal with, and what's your partner's to deal with, and then figure out what's the relationship stuff that you have to deal with, and then unpack that together. And I think if you have a partner that's willing to do that, then you're good, right? You Gucci, because then this is a matter of like unpacking that. But I think so many of us don't do the work of, as men, right? First and foremost, understanding what our own issues are. And so we show up to the table expecting our partners to do all of the emotional labor. Right. And then that's when you're like, you know, you can't blame a person and be like, yo, this is too much for me. Like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to deal with this. So I think that's the first step, is like, take the time to take stock of your own stuff, do that work, or at least embark on that journey first. And then hopefully you're going to find yourself in partnership with someone that's going to hold space for them. Are not unwilling to change. We're just afraid of the vulnerability that it takes to change in a culture that condemns it and punishes it. Right. So that's number one. Number two, we are not afraid of emotions, but again, we're afraid of the isolation that can come when we do express those emotions and they're not heard or received.
Right.
And the problem isn't connection, right? Like there's so much conversation right now around men experiencing this crisis of connection and community.
Yeah.
The problem is not connection and community. The problem is that we are taught to value control over vulnerability, right? You need vulnerability. You need to be vulnerable to create connection and community, right? Whether it's with other brothers or, community at large. And I think those are some of the misconceptions, because I'm in, not just because I do this work, but here and just in this moment right now, we've just connected, we're building community, and we're being vulnerable. And I think it's not because it's not available to us. It's just that we are afraid of what is it going to look like if I come up and I express something to Kizzle and he doesn't respond the way that I want to, or this person that I'm dating said something and I respond to it and she doesn't respond the same way. Like, what do you do in those moments? So I think it's really about addressing, the root causes of some of those things, and not sort of looking at the surface level and saying, oh yeah, well, men just don't want to change. Men are just stoic and they're just behaving badly, so to speak, or this word toxic masculinity that's been thrown around. It's masculinity on its own. It's not toxic, right? There's an operating system that affects how we perform masculinity, and that's patriarchy, which a whole nother conversation. But I think masculinity, as it were, is not toxic if you really unpack what it means. So I would say those are the three major misconceptions and myths that I've come across. If we are to be protectors, right? So like if you were to ask anybody, what is one attribute of a man? Most people probably say, oh, he needs to provide and protect and, but if we're going to really protect people, right, whether it's the women in our lives, our children, our communities, each other, the easiest way and the most effective way that we can get there is by healing ourselves. If we heal ourselves, then I guarantee you the world is going to look completely different, because we're not going to be out there competing with one another, right, to the degree that I have to take from you in order for me to win. We both have platforms. We just spent some time before we went live on this talking about how do you do this? How do you do that? Sharing information, that is anti-masculine in the traditional sense, because it's oh, well, if I give him my secrets, then he's going to take them and run with it. It's nah, man, there's enough out here for everybody to win. Right. And so I think it's debunking some of those ways of behaving, right? Those behavior patterns that are, by the way, just patterns that are not automatic, right? They're architectural, right? They are created and reinforced in the systems that we live in. So I think that's part of it, is start to think about yourself in the greater context of the worlds that you live in. And think about how you can be more in service to, as opposed to how you can take from, especially if you're a man who is interested in really being cracked open emotionally. A daughter is going to do that. And I'm not one of those men that's oh, I embarked on this men's work because I had a daughter. Or because before I had a daughter, I had sisters, I had, mom or whatever. So that's not it. But there's nothing you're not going to be brought to yourself, by anything and anyone else in life, as a man, right, than a daughter, because there are going to be moments where you're going to have to swallow your pride. There's going to be moments where they will call you out and there's nowhere to hide. There's going to be moments where you're going to be yo, I fucked up. You know what I'm saying? And how do I apologize in this moment? How do I apologize, take my ego down and apologize, because that's all she wants right now is her father. There's just so many moments that I can describe to you that only when you're in that moment, you're going to realize, oh, this is real. But then the other part of it is being a father to a son is also beautiful and important, right? Because think about a young boy's, the first person that they're trying to inspire, or whose approval they're trying to gain is their dad. In the backyard, you're throwing the baseball around, yo, good job, son, right? That's the basic building block of self-esteem. So, fatherhood roles are really important. Whether you're a father to a son or a girl dad, as it were, or a father to a son, I think it's really important to think about that. Kids come through you. They're not of you, right? They're not yours. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the mistake that a lot of us make, especially young parents, is like, oh, they're my kid, so I gotta like, like everything. And, and I think that comes from this place of fear, really.
Yeah.
So you have to say, all right, like as a parent, you've done the work. You have principles. You have these values that you want to instill in them.
Right.
And at that point, remember, they're human beings. You know what I'm saying? Like they're going to evolve. They're going to grow up. They're going to leave you at some point. Mm-hmm. So you have to just trust that. And I told my mom this, like as I was growing up, we had a lot of conversations around her being a single mom and like her having to trust me as a man to let me go. Mm-hmm. Same thing I would say to you is like, your job is to just kind of create the container for them to evolve. And then at some point you have to detach. I think the challenge is that we as men, especially black men and black and brown men, the expectation is that we have it all figured out. We got it all together. And so when we experience moments of weakness, it's like, man, like I know I'm not well. I know that I'm experiencing something. I know I need help, but who do I talk to about that? And then on top of that, you throw on the layer of success, right? Like some of the most darkest moments, some of the most egregious battles of anxiety and depression that you're ever going to have is at the peak of success. Because what happens at that moment, you're like, yo, I've achieved the thing.
Yeah.
Like I'm there.
Yeah.
So who can I go talk to? Because if I call somebody, they're like, yo, you're successful. You got this, you good. Like, what are you talking about? Right. So that I'm experiencing a lot because it's like, yo, who do you talk to? It's a very thin air at that level, right? Mm-hmm. And then ideations of like, yo, I don't want to be here anymore are very scary. Like I've been having more and more intrusive thoughts because I'm like, yeah, like what is this all for? Like ain't nobody gonna miss me, even though that's not true.
Yeah.
And I think what gets me back, part of what gets me back is the acknowledgement that that's a little bit selfish to think that way. Like, yeah, I can remove myself. And then, fine, I won't feel anything anymore. But how selfish is that to my mom, to the people that love me, them not having me here anymore? And so what would I say to a black man that's struggling, that's watching this video and listening to this conversation? Number one is give yourself grace and forgive yourself, first and foremost, for being human. You're not expected to have it all put together. You're not expected to have all the answers. Give yourself room to not know. Give yourself room to take a step back and breathe and ask yourself, what would you want to do? How do you want to respond to this moment? And then give yourself room to let that be whatever it needs to be.
Sometimes I know you feel like you ain't got nobody to speak to. A shoulder to lean on somebody you could preach to. No, you need to hear it, my brother.